Having failed to shift the balance of power at the ballot box, the opposition must now fight hard if they are to ever be relevant to the aspirations of Ugandans. Just like in the 8th Parliament, the opposition still remains a minority in the 9th Parliament with a paltry 57 members out of a House of 375 MPs. But what kind of opposition would Ugandans want them to be? NTV sampled some views on the street.
I'd like to see an opposition that is action-based, an opposition that does things and gets us to see that this is what they can do, instead of one that just makes a lot of noise in Parliament.
Accountability and really putting the government to do the right things.
The opposition that can advise the president on what to do and when.
We should continue to mobilize our people. Time is coming when this thing is going to just snap like that.
That said, for now the equation seems not to be on the side of the opposition, which is outnumbered and outgunned by NRM MPs in the House, and also in terms of shaping and influencing policy and legislation. Events last week attest to the kind of uphill struggles that await the opposition. It lost as expected in the race to provide a Speaker and Deputy Speaker of Parliament, and this week could not stop the confirmation of the new Prime Minister despite abstaining from the vote.
In the 6th Parliament, we were not many, but we successfully censured 2 ministers and forced 2 others to resign because we did adequate research, because we met regularly to compare notes, and because we kept our finger on the pulse of the population.
The question that lingers is what they must do to remain relevant both in Parliament and on the political scene.
As long as the opposition is connected to the population, no one can derail the opposition. But if the opposition members of Parliament only have their eyes glued on the privileges of being an MP and thus disconnected from the population, they will surely become irrelevant.
And even though we know their views may not be taken into account in shaping policies. So their role, when all is said and done, the reason why we let them sit in Parliament is so that they can be a voice in spite of the incredible distortions, in spite of the rubber stamping.
Political analysts believe going back to the drawing board or grassroots to mobilize for party support is the only option, rather than waiting for the electioneering period to garner support.
Once you have that alternative agenda, you should be able to sell it over the next 5 years. The role of the opposition is always not just to oppose, but also to provide alternative policy ideas that sometimes government actually can look at those ideas and say, yeah, this is something that works, we could even pick it up. Then the opposition would have added value.
Recent events seem to bear this out. Recently, they showed they could achieve much by uniting to execute the walk-to-work protests that resonated with the public, battered by high commodity prices. They have continued to put their differences aside in dialoguing on the lead of the opposition and now the shadow cabinet that is to articulate alternative policy to government. But will this political marriage last to help their cause for political change in the country?
The reason we've come together is because we want democratic change. And we've realized democratic change cannot be brought about in Uganda simply through procedural politics, simply through the ballot box, simply through holding pro forma elections once every 5 years. That will never bring democratic change in Uganda.
Outmatching the big numbers of NRM in Parliament might prove an uphill task for the opposition, but the only chance they have now is to provide balanced and accurate answers to the people. Hilary Isiga, NTV.